Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. Dragon Culture Media sadly brings to you the Final Thursday show. But we are coming back in 2 days on Saturday, and we're going to be on Saturdays moving forward.
Yay.
So, as always, my partner in crime, Miss McCara. Oh, that's right, Mac.
Hello.
How are you this morning?
Tired, but ready for the stream and, of course, looking forward to Saturday.
Yeah, and Saturday we have our first two-time guest, and that's going to be Donna. She's going to be coming on Saturday. And we're going to be starting a new weekly segment, and we're hopefully we'll have a guest every week. I'm sure there'll be from time to time no guest. I do not have the booking magic fingers that Donna does, and we'll probably talk about that on Saturday. But our new segment that we're going to hold every week is we're going to ask our guests their favorite Saturday morning cartoons. A lot of us of our age, if you're a millennial or older, you probably grew up watching cartoons Saturday morning on cable TV. Pretty much anyone after 1998, maybe 99, they don't have that experience in their life, and they're missing out. And we're going to talk about that, and we'll probably talk about that a little bit today, just about mine and Mac's experiences with that. Because I'm going to try, although we're going to have our guests or our segments, we're going to try to focus on the guests, things that they're coming up with and everything. And I'm going to try to pivot to more a guest oriented show, is what I'm thinking. And I think people tend to like those better, and it builds conversations. So, and wouldn't you know it, we have one of our top friends right there, the Beast. Good
Nubbies.
morning. How are you, my friend? I heard that you've got some things going on, so prayers in the chat for Beast. Hope all is well. So, and the Beast, right out of the gate with his. So that's a good pick right there. I think it's given the title of my channel, I think it's pretty obvious what my favorite Saturday morning show was. Wasn't a cartoon, although it was a little cartoonish from time to time.
It was.
But
in the best way.
And look, wouldn't you know it, he has just what you need, the Wayfarer.
Hello, Wayfarer.
Yes, it does. Adulting does suck. Makes you wish your time as a kid. It really does. Which is ironic because as a kid, or at least a teenager, all we ever wanted was to be adults.
Isn't that funny how that works? It's like you want to be adult because you want to be adults because you don't want to go to school in the morning. You don't want people ragging on you all the time. And then you grow up and you get people ragging on you all the time. And then you have to go to work. And it's like, I don't want to go to work. I want to go to school.
Wayfarer Final Thursday show seems ominous. Well, I was kind of placating to the algorithm just a bit there. I didn't want to go too, black pill. But and then we got another one here, Brimstone. Good morning to you. No, you're pretty much right on time there, bud. Right on time.
My other co-host.
Yeah. I don't get to hop in there very often just because of when you guys are on. I am usually knocked out. So I do apologize about that. But I do try to catch the replay. So.
Yeah. We have a lot of fun over there, me, Brimstone, Wasp. So we're happy for anybody who comes in, including the replays too. So.
But we're just kind of shooting the shit, just hanging out today. We don't really have any real topics today. That's going to be the focus for Saturday. Saturday is just a fresh start. We're going to still be weekly, but we're going to start Saturday moving forward. And we're going to be live at 11 a.m., so a little bit later than we normally do. Hopefully that's easier on Mac. And but I chose Saturday because I realized that not a whole lot of people stream Saturday mornings. So I thought, well, maybe we can, take advantage of that and see where that takes us. I know one of the biggest complaints, or not really complaints, but notes that I've gotten from people is that there's just too many other people on during the week. And that's why, it's not that people don't want to watch us. It's just there's other people on. So it's completely understandable.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Brimstone says, I have to crack out a vid today. It's done. Just need to make a thumbnail. Cool, cool. He says, I do my errands on Saturday mornings. LOL, I won't be around. And I'm sad to say, well, that's okay. But I will catch the replay. Hey, turnabout's fair play there, bud. All right. Well, Mac, what do you got going on here lately?
Just working on some writing, trying to get back to videos. The problem is that like my hands have been killing me, so it's like the more I want to do more, but my hands just aren't having it lately. So hopefully it'll get better and I can do a little bit more.
Yeah.
But I want to get back into it. So these streams are a good way for me to like feel busy, but not overwork myself, so I can feel like my hands get a break. But yeah.
Right. Well, to give the chat a taste of what we're going to be doing Saturdays, why don't we start off with our favorite? It doesn't have to be any particular one, but our favorite Saturday morning cartoons. And there was a smorgasbord of them in the '90s and even the '80s before I came around. So, Mac, what are some that you want to highlight?
So we were really lucky. Well, I felt lucky. So aside from Power Rangers, I used to watch like Generator Rex, Ben 10, used to watch Witch. So like I of course had my girly cartoons and I had my fun, masculine, awesome cartoons that were like, hey, this is kind of fun. So like Generator Rex, Ben 10, I already said. Let's see. I used to watch Huntix. Yeah, Huntix. I had a lot of other cool ones that I used to like because I was in that era of like 4Kids and Jetix. So back when cartoons were cool, American Dragon, Jake Long.
I remember that one. I liked that one, but I was really big Jackie Chan back then, and I think that came out not long after Rush Hour 2. So yeah, like I was really big into that.
Oh, cool.
And then, so like some that I remember, where with me being born in 1990, I was in this like middle period where I got to experience the best of the '80s. Plus, I had got to come up with all the new stuff in the '90s, which was really interesting. And Brimstone beat me to it before I'm going to name them.
Oh yeah, X-Men, Gargoyles. Yeah, we had some good ones.
Like I watched Gargoyles while it was on. Spider-Man.
Yeah, with Keith David.
Let's see here. There was the animated Batman series. Like, I mean, it's goated. It's probably what the best Saturday morning cartoon there is the animated Batman series.
Yeah. Teen Titans.
I was mixed on Teen Titans. I loved the concept when it was first being advertised, when it first came out. And then about halfway through the second season, it got boring to me because all they wanted to focus on was Slade. And I was like, Slade's not the only villain, and Slade got weird to me. Like he, had a teenage girl living with him and everything. And I'm just like, it got a little weird for me.
I like it better than Go. I hated Go.
Yeah, that just went even worse.
Yeah. I used to watch like Stoked and there was one I used to watch that was like 16 back when I was 16. So it was like, I used to enjoy a lot of good stuff that we had. I still kind of go back to Stoked because it's like, this is funny. But like Ben 10 had like all the cool like aliens, and so I watched that growing up. And
I really
then of course
liked
they
Ben
had the
10.
live action. Then they had the live actions with that one. And then of course people are like, we want. Someone said, I want a new Ben 10 live action. I was like, we already got two, and they were fine the
Yeah.
way they were. We don't need more.
I didn't really care for them. I wanna know why they waited until the generation that grew up on Kim Possible, which I like. I was okay with Kim Possible.
Yeah,
Why
Kim
did they
Possible was
wait till,
good.
like, 20 years to do a live action of that? And they put it on Disney Plus. It was really bad.
Yeah, well, they had it always on Disney, so it's weird that they did that, and now they're trying to, like Disney's trying to go back to their catalogs of stuff, like Hannah Montana, bringing in Miley Cyrus. It's like, you guys are so hopeless when it comes to making content. You have to go backwards to move forward. It's like, you're so
So,
stupid.
I don't know if
But
it's true, and if it's true, it's really sad, but I read something, the other day that said that, Disney didn't even create the project, Miley did, and that basically she got the project going by just lying on social media saying it was happening, and then Disney just was like, "Yeah, yeah, sure." Like, they weren't even gonna do it.
yeah, well, they
And
figured, well, we're gonna get views. We might as well bank on Miley.
mhm. I don't know what they're doing over there, to be honest. I mean, speaking of Disney, you wanna
They
talk about
are.
some great content, let's talk about the Disney Channel movies. They put out some bangers there for almost 15 years,
Yeah,
you know?
all the original stuff they don't even do anymore.
I mean, like, it's the reason, like, I fell in love with the Lawrence brothers was because of the Disney Channel movies, and then I ended because of those 2 movies they did, Horse Sense and Jumpin' Ship, I found
Mhm.
reruns of the sitcom that they were on called Brotherly Love, which is extremely hard to find because there's no physical copies of it, and you can find it on YouTube, but every once in a while it gets pulled, and then the guy someone I think what happened with that particular show is I think someone worked at the studio and has the full season, like on physical tape or something, and they
Yeah.
just upload it to YouTube. And then every time it gets pulled, they just re-upload it. But Disney owns the rights to it, and it's one of those things that they just will not put out for whatever reason. I don't know if it's like they have an issue with the Lawrence brothers or what it is, or I don't know. But
Yeah.
it's an amazing sitcom. It's wholesome. It's like I don't know. I don't really know
Well,
how to
they
explain it, but I really enjoyed it, and I still enjoy it now in my 30s.
well,
So,
they had Joey Lawrence go over to ABC, which is basically Disney, so it's like
mhm.
they've had ABC shows with the Lawrence brothers, so I don't know.
I don't have an explanation. They act like the show doesn't exist.
Yeah. Well, I remember like Sweet Life of Zach and Cody. I remember like
Mhm,
they had so much good, but I like the movies, like Going to the Mat. They had the one with Andrew Lawrence, and then
mhm.
where he uh yeah,
I
I
liked
enjoyed
the
that
weird
one.
ones, like, I liked Smart House. I liked Can of Worms. Can of Worms was so much fun. The
They used
13th
to do.
Year was surprisingly really good. Um,
Oh yeah, it was. And then My Mom's Date with a Vampire.
mhm.
They
And
had,
people trash on it, but there's a reason that they made 3 Xenon movies, just saying.
and then they had like let's see, they did a couple. They always had like Halloween Town. They did like
Mhm.
holiday specials, all that stuff. And they had some really great original content, but it's like they don't have writers that can do TV anymore, and they all now switched to over to superheroes, and it's like
Yeah,
those aren't super and they aren't heroes. You guys are doing like super villains, but not even doing super
yeah.
villains correctly. You're doing super cut.
Well,
More
and
like it.
if I remember correctly, I believe I don't know if it was a Disney Channel movie, but I know they did, Up and Away aired on Disney Channel.
They did.
Um, so I don't know if that was a Disney Channel movie, but I know it aired on Disney Channel, and I remember liking
Um,
that.
do you remember Jet Jackson?
Mhm. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, I remember I was like really sad what happened, but
Mm.
I remember that story, and I was like, "Oh, I love that show," and I was like, "Dang, man, that's heavy."
Yeah. But
But
no, like the fall of Disney Channel is wild, because it started like really small. It started in a lot of ways like Disney itself started, where it just started really small and then just blew up.
mhm.
Because you look at the content that they were putting out in the late '70s on through the '80s, and a lot of them were trash. Um, some of them they had their hidden gems, um, but a lot of them were just boring. And I think it's because that during that time, Little House on the Prairie and a lot of shows like that were really big at that time, and they tried to, emulate that. So and they just didn't do it right.
Yeah.
I never understood why Disney Channel they always put the family sitcoms on ABC, not on the Disney Channel, and,
Well, because with ABC, they could get, like, a little less PG, but still keep it, like, sorta sitcom family friendly. And
see that
then and then later on, they started getting into more, like, adult themes like they had with, when Joey Lawrence was in that one with, Melissa Joan Hart.
yeah.
But yeah.
It's like Sabrina Teenage Wish. Now, was that CBS or was that ABC? I don't remember.
Good question. I don't
There's a
mm,
lot of them that jumped back and forth too. Like there's some that like would jump back and forth between CBS and ABC. Like one year they'd be on one channel and next year they'd be on the other.
yeah.
Um, and there was a time there for a while growing up that I couldn't tell which one was which. I always knew what was NBC because they were fairly consistent. Um, but the way ABC and CBS would their programming would bounce back and forth always confused me as a kid growing up.
Yeah, and then they started going freeform, and it's like that's when it started dipping down into the woke stuff. I was like, "Oh, no." That's when I started that's when I started noticing, like, changes. So, like, when The Fosters came out, I was like, "Okay, you got a lesbian cop and then a lesbian school teacher, and they live together and they foster children," and it's like, yeah, I watched it, and then afterwards, it started doing, like, the spinoffs, and I was like, that's when I started noticing, "Oh, no. Where are we going with this? Yeah, what are you guys doing? This isn't
You know,
fun."
I think sitcoms really are though, like you can really look at the rise and fall of America through sitcoms in a way, because sitcoms, their ultimate goal um, was to imitate middle America in a lot of them.
Yeah,
And
like
the sitcoms today, they don't really do that. They just kind of do what they want, or they'll do what they think middle America should be, not what it is.
the last one they did with that was The Middle, and it was
Mhm.
basically Middle America and the family who struggled with money, but managed to kinda, like, keep their family together, it was I love The Middle. Like, I still go back and watch it. It's just
The
one of those
last
wholesome family shows.
The last sitcom I watched, I had high hopes for. They did exactly what I thought they were gonna do, and so I stopped watching it, was The Neighbors. And I should have known what they were gonna do just based on the concept alone, but the ultimate concept is a white family moved to a black neighborhood in middle of Atlanta, Georgia, and that's the basis of the show. And I was hoping it would be a show about bringing, you know, everyone together. We're all America in the racial divide, and no, they just strengthened it.
Yeah.
Just like so,
I remember when, the Obamas were in, and they would have Michelle Obama or Big Mike, I call him Big Mike.
it's Big Mike.
Yep. Big Mike would be on and pop in like on Doc McStuffins. They had an episode with that, and they had a couple other shows I think where Big Mike was on there, and I was like, oh my goodness, what are you guys doing? Like
I
you
mean,
don't see. I was like, at least when Donald Trump did a cameo in a show, it's like, oh my goodness, it's Trump, how cool. But when Obama's did it, I was like, oh, it's so cringy.
if I'm not mistaken, I think Donald Trump did a cameo on The Sweet Life.
I think so. I
I
just
could be
remember
wrong on that, but I think he
I
did.
just remember Home Alone, and I was like, oh my goodness, that is so cool.
I think that was the running joke, is because he did the Home Alone in a hotel, so they're like, well, these kids live in a hotel. Let's do Donald Trump again.
Yeah,
But
yeah. Like
but
people loved him, and now they're like, oh, he becomes president, they all hate him. It's like,
well, now you got people on the right criticizing him. The man can't do anything right, whether it's the left or the right. It's like, oh, he's going to cause
yeah,
World War III. Oh, now he's a chicken.
yeah, damned if you do, damned if you don't.
So I just kind of tune myself out now. I'm just like, let him cook for all I care.
Yeah. Anyway,
But back to
back to
sitcoms. Um, I watched the classics growing up. I watched Home Improvement. I watched Growing Pains, Full House, like to the point that I grew up wanting to live in San Francisco because of Full House. My first two loves as a kid were you keep in mind I was a little kid when Full House was on, but my first two loves were Shirley Temple and Michelle from Full House. So
and then you realized what San Francisco looks like now.
yeah, and then I also realized at 6 years old that Shirley Temple was a 75-year-old woman. So yeah, that was an interesting conversation. My mom tells the story. She's like, "Your little heart was broken," and I was like, "Of course it was. The girl in my dreams was years beyond my league."
Yeah. Say, son,
Uh,
when that black and white was on, that means they were old by the time you were born.
I didn't understand that yet. I didn't care yet. Uh, but speaking of that, that's another fun topic. Let's shift from sitcoms. There are some really good classic movies. So I don't know if you remember, but um I watched for the first time this past Christmas It's a Wonderful Life, and I watched it for the first time ever.
hmm
Never watched it before. Not that I had anything against it or anything, just saw no reason to watch it. It was a 70-year-old movie, didn't need to watch it. And I finally watched it, and I was like, I'm glad I did. And then
Yeah.
I'm finding um, this revitalization of liking old movies, because, like I said, I grew up on Shirley Temple movies, and a lot of those movies, you got to think those movies were intended for kids, and they've got some really harsh and deep undertone themes in those movies. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
from like uh, one of her characters being an orphan. Um, so there's a lot of them where she's an orphan, which I find really odd. If you research when those movies came out, that was actually a really big theme, because there was the orphan trains that went on. Um,
hmm
Not necessarily when those movies were made, but the time period in which they take place is when the orphan trains were happening. Um, so if you're a big history buff, like a lot of us are here in the 199, I think you should check out those movies. So
Yeah. Well,
losing my man card here, but
no. I mean, they had like, of course, Newsies, and they had a lot of good stuff. Like sometimes I call it the current entertainment environment because it's like that's how I look at it. But it's like it makes you want to go back and watch the older stuff, and remember what was good, but also you learn to find some decent stuff that you maybe haven't seen.
Well, the
And so and
entertainment
so
industry is going on over 100 years now. There's so much out there other than what's just coming out. I
yeah.
mean, think back to the movie Demolition Man, where they're listening to old jingles on the radio, and that's their oldies.
Mhm.
And they're jingles from like the 20s and the 30s is what they're listening to while they're going down the road. I mean, we're kind of at that point now in our society. So it's wild.
Yeah. It's the wild, wild west. But yeah, it's interesting because usually I've been watching Tubi and falling down the Tubi rabbit hole, and so it's like, you know what? There's some interesting stuff I never would have watched had I not like, because it's like I don't really watch many of the mainstream movies. I saw Mario, and that was about. And
Mhm.
then of course, I go to the theaters for my action movies, but that's pretty much about it. I don't really go and watch all these other movies that are being covered by the big streamers because it's like I'm not interested in that, and I don't want to. I don't want to hate watch. I want to. I want to watch
Yeah.
something I enjoy, and so it's like, okay, I found Tubi. It's like, okay, I'm finding some like some are cheesy, but I'm finding some really good ones, and exactly, Brimstone. But it's like I want to like we used to and movies used to be so cheap and so like fun. And you go there, get your favorite treat, your popcorn, you got your movie and you had a great cinema experience. Whereas now it's
Yeah.
like you go to the movies and the trailers are not inspiring and you just come out of the movies like, well, that was that. So,
Well, I feel like my grandfather at times when I talk about the movies nowadays, because when I was in high school, and it was still too expensive for us then when I was in high school, going to the movies was about $14 for one person. Um, and now, and that's with snacks, the ticket, everything is about 14 to $15. Now you're looking about $50 for one person. So if you want to go on a date, you're dropping $100 just for two people.
yeah, unless you go to one of those like discount theaters where it's a little bit cheaper,
Hmm.
but you're not going to find the good seats. But
No, I
yeah,
mean, I was fortunate enough that when I was in junior high, we lived in Ohio, and we had one of the last drive-in theaters in the state. And the year we moved from Ohio was the year that they shut the drive-in down. And I saw Inspector Gadget in theaters there. I saw Spider-Man at the drive-in, like the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. Um, what else did I see there? I think I saw Blade Trinity there. There was like a lot of good movies that I got to see at the drive-ins. So it's like it's one of those things where I relate more with Gen X than I do my own generation because of the lifestyle that I lived growing up.
hmm
So let's see here. Michael Moose, new to the chat here. He says, I have over 300 movies on my watch list just on Tubi. Well, there you
yeah.
go. You've got
Tubi,
content for forever.
so it's like Tubi is kind of like what Netflix doesn't do. One, it's free. I hope
Hmm.
that they keep that. Like, please keep that because it's glorious. Like, you have more access to things. Yes, you have ads, but you can put past that because it's like, yeah, because you have more access to all these things. Like, yeah, there's some not so many great ones, but that's the thing is you can be entertained and find some of the best ones that like I found Life After Fighting and I was like, holy crap, this is so good. And then I got introduced to Bren Foster and now he's got a movie that he's doing called Beast. And I was like, sign me up. Yeah, it's like, so because that's how I fell back in love with martial arts movies again, because it's like, well, I've already seen all the greats, and it's like I wanted to watch a show that I hadn't seen, and it's like, but I don't know where to look, because like with Netflix, unless it's One Piece, it's like I don't really. I'm kind of tired of stuff that I don't want to watch, and it's like I get into something, and then something about it pisses me off, and it's like I really don't want to watch something that pisses me off. I want to watch something I can like laugh at or enjoy, and it doesn't piss me off in a fun way. It pisses me off in it pisses me off in the most obnoxious way possible. As like, so with
I don't
Tubi,
I don't know how people like getting pissed off. I really don't. Yeah, and Jeremy, I love watching. I do like watching Cobra Cast, but him on Cobra Cast on his gaming streams, like he gets so darn mad. Beardo, him getting mad on his gaming streams, and I'm like, I can't really say too much because I used to do that with the wrestling games that I play. I've mellowed out a lot over the last few years. And it probably has a lot to do with I just don't game a whole lot anymore. I mean, when there's nothing else to do, I'll sit back, throw on the Xbox machine and play around for an hour or two. But yeah, see, I'm right there with you. I don't like getting mad. That being said, I do have a short fuse. It's very easy to get me mad, but I don't like it.
so like,
Um,
yeah, back to like Tubi, it's like I find some ones that are have like it's kind of it's back to form of storytelling. Maybe the stories aren't as great, or maybe they're a little bit formulaic, but then you get into the nit grit of like, okay, these people understand, these writers kind of understand heroism, they understand villainy, and they do it in a way that is so engaging. It's like, why are these movies not being shown more often elsewhere? But it's like they're so good, and some of the ones I find are like, holy crap, my mind has been blown.
well, I mean, and contrast that with apps like Disney Plus, Netflix, and HBO Max. I don't even know what they're going to do with it with the whole buyout and everything. But HBO Max removed about 90% of their cartoon content, including all of the original Looney Tunes, gone from HBO Max. They're still on uh, Amazon Prime, but not as part of Prime. You have to buy them if you want to watch them. Um,
Well,
they removed Batman the Animated Series from HBO Max. So, and that's what I was about to say, Brimstone. Like a lot of the stuff did end up on Tubi, which is
yeah,
which is great.
Tubi to the
Um,
rescue.
but my point is I'm not complaining that it's on Tubi. What I'm complaining about is they're saying, "Oh, we need to make more money. We need to make more money," and it's like, but that
Yeah.
money's not going to HBO Max. That money is going to Warner Brothers now. You've removed that from HBO Max, so now people who subscribe to Max just for that content, they're now going to watch it on Tubi, and you've lost revenue now.
Yeah.
So
They really don't understand the whole concept of making money, because it's like, you guys aren't making money, you're losing money because
yeah,
you're not engaged with audience demands. You don't even listen to them when they have like the best casting choices, and it's like, you don't care anymore what we have to say, so why are we going to put our money in to support you? And nowadays people put money in just to hate watch you.
yeah. I don't know about Animaniacs, but I'm sure it was removed too.
It's like you have YouTubers who listen to their audience, maybe not some, but at least in our sphere, we have the YouTubers that listen to their audience, and yeah, they do their own thing, but they also try to engage with the chat. And I was like, yeah, exactly, Brimstone. They just,
They just want us to give them more money, and they want us to shut up.
yep.
That's the basis of it. They're like, give us your money, shut up.
And then they get they get the lazy way out. They don't have to create anything. All they have to do is just redo something else somebody already did years earlier. That's why we have a live action Moana, even though the cartoon isn't even that old.
See,
Um,
I kind of wish that there was a story that showed. Brimstone makes a good point here. I wish that there was a story that showed all three sides of the story. And what I mean by that is, Hollywood deconstructing the hero villain dynamic. I liked it at first because I was like, okay, not everyone is evil. Some people are villain of circumstance. That does happen. There are people who are heroes of circumstance. They just happen to be in the right place at the right time. But there is evil and there is good. And I've often wondered what a story would look like that showed all three. Someone who is the pure good, someone who's the pure evil, and someone who's just there on circumstance.
yeah, I agree with Michael Moose. I like old stuff I have seen and haven't. Because it's like there's so much good stuff I haven't seen, and I was like, how did these not come up on my radar? And it's like I found these in a very low point in my life when I just needed good storytelling to pick me up, and it's like I wasn't getting that from the mainstream, so I had to go elsewhere. And it's like I really hope like Tubi does not get like corrupted because oh my goodness, I just want some good entertainment from it.
And do a little applause. We got someone from Great Britain hopping in the chat here. Cheers.
Hail.
Let's see here. We got Wayfarer. He says, I remember a couple of days ago when I hypothesized that if and when Disney would rather be corporate than creativity, they would lose their way. Well, that's kind of happened.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think the reason why people focus on Disney so much is because the amount of bangers they put out for so long. They had the culture by a stranglehold because they put out great content.
Yeah, and
Um,
notice the content slowly shifted and then it suddenly hit where it all used to be like, oh, they're not doing romance anymore. It's just all about the female heroines and not so much about meeting a guy and falling in love and changing and growing together. It's like you lost the fairy tale, you lost this, and now it's like, okay, Moana has no relationship. And then Anna and Elsa are sisters. You take Anna, of course, had relationships, but it all just became about like, and then of course you throw all the shippers into it, and it just made it a whole bunch. It's started becoming more girl centric, girl boss centric, and less and just talking down to men and making then going into race and then going into gender, and it's just all kind of like all that stuff, and it's just kind of like Tangled was the last great like relationship Disney movie.
yeah, because I never watched Cinderella. I didn't watch the most recent Snow White. Um, honestly, I don't think I've watched any of the live action Disney princess
No, I
movies.
mean Snow Brown is awful, but um Cinderella was actually really good. I will like Shad gets a lot of gripe for it, but it's like he's right. Cinderella was the best one. And I didn't mind Aladdin, but it's like I had issues with Beauty and the Beast. I don't think Emma Watson she changed too much about what I loved about Beauty and the Beast and made
Yeah.
it girl bossy, and I hated it because it's like while I liked some of the songs, I absolutely hated the dress. I hated how some of the directions they made with Belle. And then Beast kind of felt cucked because it's like they had no chemistry, and I don't know, it took the romance out of it.
It's weird because I remember, a lot of the big animated Disney movies came out in the 90s. And for the most part, I loved them all. I liked Beauty and the Beast. I liked Mulan. Loved Toy Story. Loved Lion King.
Yeah, and they had
And
some
all
great
of these
people.
live action movies were just dog shit. and
Yeah.
they wanted and the thing is Hollywood can't seem to get this through their thick skulls because they don't have any souls. But the people don't want to see these stories changed. They want to see the story that was animated be brought to life. It's not like when you adapt a book. You know, it's understandable to change things in a book somewhat because there's usually so much in a book, you got to cut some things out.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're changing from animated to live action, there's no need to change anything.
Well,
Shot
they
for
change.
shot is perfectly fine.
Well, they change it because it's like their disclaimers in their in their older stuff. Well, this might be offensive to some viewers, and then it's like they don't do that to their new stuff. The new stuff they don't. So it's like, well, kids don't. They bank on kids not reading disclaimers, but it's like, but I was like, I hate the disclaimers on the older stuff, and then the new movies are basically taking all the disclaimers of we don't want to offend anybody, and I was like, well, you kind of do, because you're offending the fans that loved the previous stuff, like, and you're not doing anything really new. You're mostly just crapping on the older stuff.
Well, here's the thing, in their minds, they're not lying because they think anyone who they disagree with isn't human. So they don't care. They offend those people, but us, because they don't view us as humans. So they're not offending anyone. They're not offending anyone that matters.
Yeah.
So I'm
Yeah,
joking.
and Brim is very right about Maleficent. Like, I mean, I didn't like hate it, but it's like I don't want to always sympathize with all these villains because the villains are villains. They're not supposed to be the heroes, and it's like they're trying to basically insert themselves. It's a self-insert. We're not
Yeah.
villains. What we're doing isn't bad. We want to be seen as the heroes of the story.
Well, that's why I get turned off when people talk about Training Day and they love Denzel Washington's character, and I'm like, the dude was a bad guy. He was an actual villain. And they're like, yeah, but I relate with him so much, and I'm like, then you're a villain. You're a bad person if you relate with that.
Yeah. I don't know. They don't. Hollywood has no idea what it's doing anymore. And the few times I'm excited is when it's like a Jason Statham, or lately it's the new one with Russell Crowe. And I was like, heck yeah, man! Finally something I'm excited for. And I really enjoyed Mario. I'm not going to do any spoilers, but I really enjoyed Mario because I get people's point. There's not like a whole big narrative. There's not like a whole lot of story, but it's like I kind of found a story within the visuals. Since I'm a visual learner, I find the story within the visuals storytelling aspect of it. So it's kind of different for me than other people the way they see it. They need words, they need dialogue. Whereas for me, because it's like I watched Redeemer, and Redeemer has basically little dialogue, and also they have no subtitles, so I can't understand a word they're saying. So I just watch the movie as is, and I enjoy it as is because I understand what's going on through the visuals. So
Right.
I know what's happening in the movie. I know that I know what Marcos Aurora is doing in the movie, what his goals are, what his aim is, and then I go from there.
Now, let me ask you this. Did you watch Tuesday night's main event?
I did.
I wasn't able to catch it, but apparently Cole was a guest and got into it with Kata.
They Yeah, Kata is very passionate, I'll say that. I have nothing but love for the guy, he's awesome. Um, yeah, but again, that's the whole point of that show, is to have different opinions. The whole point of FNT, you have different opinions, but do it in a way where it's like everyone kind of feels heard and everyone can agree or disagree, you
Uh,
know?
I, Sorry, yeah, dang,
And
I'm
and
sorry.
and that's the kind of, like, discourse that no like, Hollywood doesn't even look at. They can't do that. Have to have you agree with them constantly.
I do remember The Devil's Rejects. I think that was part of a series that Rob Zombie did, a series of movies. And around the same time The Devil's Rejects came out, that's when Wrong Turn came out. And I think that's right around the time that all this started happening with Hollywood focusing on the villains. I think it was in the same year you had Devil's Rejects, you had Wrong Turn, I think you had Jeepers Creepers. Now, these were considered like B or C list movies, but they had massive followings. And I think it was a carryover from like the Friday the 13th and the Nightmare on Elm Street movies where people started to fall in love with slasher films. And on some level I get it, on other levels I don't. I mean, you had like Michael Myers was a complete and utter psychopath that just didn't talk and liked to kill teenage girls. You had freaking Freddy Krueger was a pedophile that liked to kill not just little girls, but just teenagers. Jason, I mean, of any of them, the one that I think you should have potentially sympathy for was probably Jason because of everything he went through, you know.
Mhm.
Plus, people forget he's actually a zombie. So
Well,
there's
they
that.
were well, Disney was kinda doing that with the whole Descendants, the whole, like,
Hmm.
child of the villains, and
Right.
it's like they were trying to, like, make it almost felt like they were trying to, like, make the villains sympathetic parents, and it's like, I didn't get into that because it's like, 1, the music drives me absolutely bonkers. I don't like the music. I don't like I don't like feeling like the old classic fairy tales are being, like, turned around and spun in a different way. Uh, I don't like that creative, decision, really, because they are based off the books,
Hmm.
um, but it's like, I just
I
like,
always,
I don't mind, like, fairy tale revamps, but I want a good, clear sign of hero versus villain. I don't
yeah.
wanna sympathize with the villain. Like, you can yeah, they can be a villain of circumstance, and you can kind of feel like that, but, like, there was times where, like, the villains maybe had their reasons and that because of their circumstances, or maybe they're not necessarily villains, they just made bad choices, but it's like, sometimes you kinda need that clear line of hero versus villain because
Hmm.
you have to learn how to spot a villain and how to spot, like, a hero, and they're trying to blur that
Yeah.
or flip
Well,
it.
look at some of the non-Marvel movies, the early ones. They did the same thing. You had Sky High, misunderstood. And it's like I thought that was so weird in the second one. It's like, oh, she's just misunderstood. And I'm like, she didn't learn anything from the first movie. So yeah, she's a bad guy. And then you had what was another one? Zoom with Tim Allen.
Mhm.
Another misunderstood. Like the kid wiped out an entire town, or almost did. Like, but he's like, "Oh, he's my brother," and it's just like,
It was
dude,
just it was just the gamma radiation.
like, okay, something that I always wanted to see as a kid was I wanted to see a superhero redemption story, um, an actual one where like a superhero fell to the point that the world saw him as a villain and he had to prove to the world that he just made a mistake. But that's different than making the villain sympathetic. Like, this is someone who started out as a hero, the world saw as a hero, and then their perception changed. That's a different story. And I always thought the perfect character to do that with was Superman. And you have him to show the world that he was changing his ways, he spent all his time in prison, and unless the world needed him, and then he'd go out, save the world, and then go back to a prison cell. Not because they could keep him there, but because he let them keep him there.
Yeah.
And I always thought that would be a good story.
Well, they kind of did that with Megamind, but Megamind eventually, like, they did an interesting twist with that, where it's like, yeah, I'm sure you've seen the movie, so you understand what the twist kind of was. But I enjoyed that, but it's like that's why I can't really watch The Boys, because it's like, well, what if like the what I see is like people are like, well, what if the Justice League was evil? It's like
We've seen that.
I don't want the Justice League to be evil. I want it's
But
like
we've seen that in multiple comic books. We've seen that in the Justice League TV show. Like we've seen it multiple times. Like
it's like, can we just have heroes be heroes? If you want to do something else, do it with characters that like origin they like kind of do it with like Invincible, and it's like I feel like Invincible has too much like of they try to fit in too much world drama, and it kind of like takes me out of it. That's what took me out of like The Boys. And oh my gosh, I don't even want to talk about like I could talk for hours about how much I hate Gen V.
I don't really care for The Boys just because they put too much political messaging in it. I don't really
Yeah.
notice a whole lot of political messaging in Invincible, so I for the most part I do enjoy it.
Yeah,
Although
Brimstone sent me the comics for Invincible, and so I'm getting into those. Cause it's like
I've heard those are really good.
yeah, I just started reading it, but it's like I don't like the way I don't like the cartoon, because it's like I don't one, it's like I don't mind violence because I do watch a lot of violent martial arts movies, but it's like, yeah, they just race swap characters, and then
I
they
I
talk
also
down
heard
to men.
they gender swapped one of the villains also, I heard.
Yeah, but
So
it's like you guys can't even adapt your stuff like without having changes. It's like, why are you changing it? Why not adapt it the way you wrote it?
yeah.
It's like, and they're like, well, it was a creative decision. It's like, no, it wasn't. It was you wanting the paycheck and wanting and getting your politics in the way. It
Yep.
was not a creative decision. It was you letting the Hollywood mind virus take over for a paycheck. And it's like, why? Where's your creative integrity? Nowhere, because you left that at the door. And so that's kind of how I felt with like um The Boys. It started off interesting, but it's like I don't well, obviously they're going to make Homelander Trump, and he's just a whole big Trump allegory. But and then of course they're like, "Oh, he's bad Superman," or it's like I don't like America being painted as the villain. It's like, yes, America, every country, and even America has their issues that they had, and history ain't gonna deny that. But it's like,
I gotta be honest. You know who
yeah,
I think of every time I see Homelander?
mm,
You remember Cow and Chicken?
yeah,
I just think of the freaking the superhero from Cow and Chicken every time I see Homelander. I can't help it. Uh, let's see here. Neil Clark says in wrestling, the hero was the good guy, Hulk Hogan. The fans started cheering the anti-hero, bad guy, Stone Cold Steve Austin. Yeah, that's pretty much how it works in wrestling. Wrestling's problem is they are doing the same thing that Hollywood does, where they hate the fans. And I think it's because a lot of their writers are coming from Hollywood because there's no work in Hollywood, so they're going into pro wrestling,
mhm,
and they want to do what they want to do. And I don't know if it falls on Triple H's hands in WWE. From everything I hear, it falls on Tony Khan's hands in AEW. but I know they have a lot of writers, and the wrestlers, like, they put their input, but the wrestlers aren't the ones telling the story. They're just going out there. They focus on their moves in the ring, and as far as the promos and everything else, they just do what the writers tell them. So
Yeah. It's kind of like they don't, a lot of actors don't really have a backbone when it comes to their people who say they have, like, I agree with Jeremy, like, people who say they have principles probably don't have any principles at all, because these are people that just give in to the money and give in to whatever the Hollywood politics are because they don't want, either they believe it or they just don't want the pressure, so they just give into it. But it's like, and then of course you have James Woods who just says, "Screw it. I don't buy into that anymore, and I don't." As like, it's not the same Hollywood I was part of, you know. And
I
then you
think
have like, you have Stallone, and there people are like, "Oh, Tulsa King is woke." It's like, did you not hear Stallone say, "Fuck the woke"? That was
well,
him.
I do really like Tulsa King and Landman.
Yeah,
Um, it's funny too because I started watching those before Jeremy started talking about them, and when he started talking about them, I got a little sigh of relief because I was like, "Oh, I don't know how the crew's gonna feel about these." And then they watched them and everyone liked them. I was like, "Thank God."
yeah. Because it's like,
But
that's really good writing. That's a good case of like writing for like people who are absolutely sick of the Hollywood mind virus. And it's like, actors are, they're supposed to be, you know, they're supposed to be they're adult pretenders in their real lives, and they try to like think that the public still owes them, like they're the Greek gods, you know,
right,
pay me homage. And it's like, no, that's not how it works. Like, you basically work for the consumer. You put
right,
on plays and we pay you money, but we are not gonna worship you. We're not gonna kiss your feet. That's not how it works. And social media has made the Hollywood actor impossibly annoying to deal with.
yeah. Well, we are coming up on that old dusty trail. So this has been a fun episode. I've very
Oh,
much
yeah.
enjoyed it. I always like it when we don't really have any structure. Don't get me wrong, I do like structure, but I'm always worried when I go into an episode with no segments. It's like I don't know what we're going to talk about, but we find stuff.
Oh, yeah. Well,
um,
this was all very off the cuff and feeding off of each other, including the
right.
chat. So,
Which
uh,
we're probably going to have more of that because, like I said, we'll have segments and stuff moving forward, but it's going to be mainly focusing on the guests and what the guests would like to talk about, and we'll just feed off each other. You
mm,
know, the
yeah,
segments are really just kind of like conversation starters. They're there
yeah,
to
and
get the conversation going.
yeah, and we feed and have conversations with the chat, which helps. Like, they give us the conversations too because we're going off their questions or their comments. So it's a very interesting way to do it. So if you're ever
Right.
starting out with a stream, this is kind of a good way to start.
But next week, well, actually, no, just a couple days. Next episode, Saturday, 11 a.m. East Coast Standard Time. We're going to have Miss Donna Hall from the Unfiltered Outlaws crew. She's going to be on with us. We might have a second guest. It's not confirmed, so I'm not going to say who it is in case they don't come on. But if they do, that's going to be really fun. And so we look forward to seeing everyone there, including you, Mr. Brimstone. And so you can check out all our stuff in the comments. Mac, where can people find you? What all you got going on?
You can find me on my channel, Art by Makara. You can find me over on with Brimstone, of course, in the chat. You know, on Wednesdays with him and Wasp. Real talk, always a good time over there. Brim is awesome, and Wasp is incredible. We always have a great time over there talking about movies. And yeah, other than that, I'm usually other places. But yeah.
All right, and as always, everyone, you can find me on X at Draken_199. You can find this channel at Draken Culture Media, and if you're interested, check out my book. The link is in the description below, and I'm over here sounding like a Wahi, that dude from Egypt. I apologize about that. It's in my book. But no, it's a Goosebump Tales of the Crypt styled short novella. So I think y'all like it. You can find it over on Amazon Kindle. It's a digital edition. And no, like I said, we're gonna have Donna on here in a couple days, and we'll see you Saturday mornings moving forward. So with that, I bid everyone adieu. Mac, I'll see you in
Bye.
a couple days.
See ya.